I was 26 years old, but I still felt like a child. I lived in a big city and worked in a small company. Every day I was busy with my job. My boss gave me many tasks, and I often felt tired. When I had problems, I always called my parents. "Mom, my boss is so difficult." "Dad, I don't know what I should do." They always listened to me. They always said, "Don't worry, you can do it." I thought my parents were strong. I thought they would always be there for me. But one night, everything changed. I was watching TV after work when my phone rang. It was my mother. "Hi, Mom. What happened?" There was a short silence. Then she said softly, "Emily, your dad fell down today." My heart stopped for a moment. "Is he okay?" I asked quickly. "He is in the hospital now. The doctor is checking him." I felt scared. I wanted to cry, but my mother said, "Don't worry, honey. We can handle it." I held my phone and stayed quiet. For the first time, I heard something different in my mother's voice. She was tired. She was afraid, but she was still trying to be strong for me. That night, I realized something. Maybe my parents were not as strong as I thought. Maybe they also needed someone to care for them. The next morning, I took a train back to my hometown. During the trip, I kept thinking about my father. I remembered when I was young. My father always carried me on his back. He always held my hand when I crossed the street. But now he was lying in a hospital bed. When I arrived, I saw my mother sitting next to him. She looked different. Her hair had more white lines. Her face looked more tired. "Mom, why didn't you tell me Dad was not feeling well?" I asked. She smiled and said, "It's nothing serious. We didn't want you to worry." I looked at my father. He smiled at me. "I'm okay, Emily. Don't make that face." But I knew something was wrong. After we went home, I noticed many small things. The old sofa was still there. The kitchen table was broken. The fridge only had simple food. That night, I saw my mother sitting at the table. She was looking at some bills. She used a small notebook to write every number carefully. "Mom, are you having money problems?" I asked. She quickly closed the notebook. "No, everything is fine." I looked at her and asked, "Then why didn't you tell me?" She smiled gently. "Because you have your own life." Those words stayed in my mind. I always thought my parents should take care of me, but I never thought they might need my help too. After that day, I decided to stay at home for a while. I wanted to help my parents. At first, I felt a little lost. I did not know how to cook well. I did not know how to take care of my father. I did not know how to manage the family bills. One morning, I burned the breakfast. My father looked at the black bread and laughed. "Emily, are you trying to make new food?" I laughed too. "I think I need more practice." Slowly, I learned. I went to the hospital with my father. I helped my mother in her small shop. I cleaned the house and cooked dinner. Every day I found new things to do. One night I sat with my father in the living room. He looked at me and asked, "Are you tired?" I wanted to say yes. I was tired. I missed my city life. I missed my old routine. But I looked at my father's grey hair and my mother's tired smile. I smiled and said, "A little, but I'm okay." My father nodded. At that moment, I understood something important. Growing up was not about knowing everything. It was about facing things even when you were afraid. I felt like I was not just a child anymore. I was becoming someone my family could depend on. Before this time, I always thought my father did not understand me. When I was young, I loved music. I wanted to join a music competition at school. I wanted to learn singing and play the guitar. But my father said, "You should focus on your studies." I was angry. I thought he did not support my dream. For many years I remembered that moment. I believed my father only cared about money and work. One afternoon I cleaned the old cabinet in our house. I found a small box under some books. Inside the box, there were many old things. There were my childhood photos, my first song paper, and a music competition letter from many years ago. I was surprised. My father kept all these things. I walked to him and asked, "Dad, why did you keep them?" He looked at the box and smiled. "Because I knew you loved music." I was quiet. "Then why didn't you let me join the competition?" I asked. My father looked down and said softly, "I was not stopping your dream. I was just afraid you would get hurt." At that moment, my eyes became wet. I finally understood my father. Sometimes parents do not know how to show love. Sometimes their love looks like worry. But behind that worry, there is always love. A few months later, my father got better. I went back to the city and started my normal life again. But I was not the same person anymore. Before, when I had problems, I always called my parents first. I wanted them to give me answers. But now I try to solve problems by myself. I also started calling my parents more often. "Mom, how was your day?" "Dad, did you take your medicine?" They always smiled when I asked these questions. One evening, I sat alone in my apartment. I looked at an old photo of my family. I thought about the past. I used to believe growing up meant having a good job, making money, and living alone. But I was wrong. Growing up was the moment when I understood my parents were not superheroes. They were just ordinary people. They also felt tired. They also felt afraid. But they loved me with all they had. So when people ask me, "When did you first feel like you really grew up?" I always remember that night in the hospital. I remember sitting next to my father. I remember holding his hand. That was the first time I knew. I was no longer only a child who needed love. I was also someone who could give love. Growing up does not mean we stop needing our parents. It means we finally learn how to love them back.